What's going on YouTube? It's your boy King Said Gaming, and we are back with another video. Today's video, man, we're gonna touch base on Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins. If you didn't know, go check out my other two videos I got on this game. It just came out on PS5, the demo version. The actual full game won't be released till next year. But my boy Final Fantasy Union on YouTube, you guys definitely need to go check him out if you're a big Final Fantasy nerd like I am. He covers the lore of every Final Fantasy game to a T, inside and out. The fucking guru when it comes to this. But he's covered this game as well. I found it very interesting when I seen it. Haven't seen the video, but when I seen the title, I was like, I definitely gotta react to it because I'm very interested in this game. Especially considering that this game apparently is Final Fantasy 1. They're like going back in time. It's like a different perspective, like what we're looking at here. So we're gonna check this video out, man, and we'll see what's going on. Also, man, make sure you like and subscribe to the video. Like it up, man. And I'm going to leave his channel in the description below, so you go check his page out, too. Without further ado, let's get into it. Alrighty. See what he got for us.
Alongside showing off an extended look at the new Guardians of the Galaxy game and doing a very quick tease of a new suite of remasters for Final Fantasy 1 through 6, the Square Enix E3 2021 press conference was closed off with the unveiling of a brand new Final Fantasy game. Due to a series of unfortunate leaks that were then corroborated by industry veterans such as Imran Khan of Fanbyte, one of the worst kept secrets in video gaming in the lead up to this E3 was the reveal of Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. It will be a brand new Final Fantasy Gaiden experience, and it will be developed by Team Ninja with creative direction from senior figures at Square Enix. The game will be directed by Daisuke Inoue,
Y'all have
who
not
for
played
the past
this game
4
yet.
years
It's
has served
definitely
as the
interesting,
director
man.
of Opera Omnia, another game developed by Team Ninja. Before
I
that,
didn't know that.
Inoue was one of the lead planners on Lightning Returns and served as a battle planner on Final Fantasy XIII, Crystal Chronicles Echoes of Time, and Dirge of Cerberus. Inoue will be assisted by Jin.
You know, that's Dirge of Cerberus. That was another game it reminded me. I know it reminded me of something else. I haven't played Dirge of Cerberus since I was a kid, but I know it reminded me of something
Fujiwara,
else.
who will act
Forgot
as
about that game.
producer, a role he has also fulfilled on Opera Omnia alongside Inoue. Prior to Opera Omnia, Fujiwara was part of what was known as Business Division 4, where he worked alongside Ichiro Hazama on games like Theatrhythm and Pictologica. According to an interview that was published on the official Square Enix website, Tetsuya Nomura was the one who came up with the idea for Stranger of Paradise, and the process started around 10 years ago when development was wrapping up on Dissidia Duodecim. At the time,
This project has been in the works for 10 years.
Nomura envisioned a game where the focus was about capturing locations as opposed to fighting against characters, and it would again be action-focused. Around the same time, Nomura was also conceptualizing another project that revolved around the story of an angry man, but neither project gained any real traction at the time. It was only when Nomura was asked to put forth a new plan that he decided to combine the two projects into one, something that spawned Stranger of Paradise. The game will be focused around a character who, for now, is just known as Jack, and he looks remarkably like Corleonis from Final Fantasy XV, a character who was coincidentally voiced by Matt Mercer, the actor who presented this year's Square Enix press conference. Jack is not the most standout of character names, and as a fun fact, it's actually the 8th time we've seen a character with that name in the franchise, although their significance has varied over the years. Jack was a low-key NPC in Final Fantasy VIII who was part of the Card Club. Jack, or Alleyway Jack, was the alias for Gilgamesh in Final Fantasy IX.
I remember
Jack
Alleyway Jack.
Moshe was one of the more memorable antagonists in Crystal Chronicles.
Ready to add some serious boost to your parlay bets? Introducing Parlay Boost from Bet.
Jack was a secret character in Chocobo Racing, acting as a nod to the main character in the 3D battles of World Runner. Jack was also the main character's name in the Japanese version of Mystic Quest. Ray Jack appeared as the main character in the original King's Knight and its 27 reboot, and one of the class members of Class 0 was also called Jack in Final Fantasy Type 0. This Jack has only received a brief description so far, but we do know he's a very angry man,
Very
who,
angry.
if you've watched the trailer, will know has a very strong focus around wanting to defeat chaos.
Chaos.
Based on that compulsion, Jack has no hesitation to kill everything that stands in his way with no remorse and no mercy. He will be voiced by Mohsin Melvin, whose main credit to date is providing the narration of a TV series called Vengeance, which feels quite fitting. Jack is then supported in this endeavour to defeat Chaos by two other protagonists, Jed and Ash. Jed is voiced by Alejandro Saab, who played Jules in the Final Fantasy VII Remake, as well
Really?
as Laswell in War of the Visions. But unlike Jack, Jed is known for being kind and cheerful. Despite the clear anger issues displayed by Jack, Jed is said to respect him and admires his strength, and in terms of his combat prowess, even though Jed is quite small in stature in comparison to the other two protagonists, he is said to be just as strong. The final protagonist is called Ash, and he'll be voiced by Matt Neely in what appears to be his first voice acting role. Like Jed, it's said that Ash respects Jack's fighting ability and does what he can to support him in his quest to try and defeat Chaos. Each of these characters has been created by Nomura, but the story has been conceived and written by veteran writer Kazushige Nojima. In the same aforementioned interview, Nojima said he feels the story he's crafted will be quite memorable and will work alongside the brutal gameplay style that's been adopted.
That's kind of disappointing. I was really hoping. So basically, this guy's creating his own story, but why does Chaos look like Garland from Final Fantasy 1? Why are they calling themselves the Warriors of Light when you get to Chaos at the end of this demo? Sorry for the spoilers for the people who haven't played it. It's interesting though. Let's keep
He
going.
also hopes the player will be drawn to understand why the protagonists are so fixated on attempting to defeat Chaos instead of having much wider hopes and dreams of their own. It hasn't been declared in an official sense, but based on their blind obsession to defeat Chaos and the fact that they all appear to be wearing non-fantasy clothing in their concept art, as well as numerous gameplay segments, Stranger of Paradise could well be another isekai story, where the three protagonists have been ripped from their world and placed in this new one. I say another isekai story because it seems to be a common trend at Square Enix in recent times. They produced a manga a few years ago called Final Fantasy Lost Stranger, which followed the journey of a Square Enix employee who died and was reborn in a Final Fantasy world.
Oh, wow.
Dragon Quest Your
That's pretty
Story
cool.
was also an isekai story, and it seems to be the basis of the upcoming game from Luminous Productions called Forspoken, where Frey Holland is said to be a stranger in the world of Athia. In the case of Stranger of Paradise, the game appears to be set in the same world as the original Final Fantasy. We saw Garland, and his design was very traditional. In addition, the protagonists also talk about making their way through the Chaos Shrine, a classic dungeon from the original game, and mention an assumption that they are the Warriors of Light, but it's also been noted within the press material that they may not actually be the Warriors of Light who had been prophesized. Either way, it feels like a concrete connection, but at the moment, we don't really know much more about why they're in this world or whether it's actually the same world. One interesting theory that's cropped up came from a user on Reddit called
All right, I'm gonna read this out, y'all. In the trailer, we can see the MC brandishing a blade very similar to that of Spiritus' blade from Dissidia. Spiritus acts as the main antagonist of Dissidia NT and literally acts as a pseudo agent of chaos. The story is the following: when World B collapsed, everything it contained was erased from existence, including Chaos' soul, which was still wandering through the lands after his defeat at the hands of Cosmos' warriors. Chaos' will survived and eventually took form, birthing Spiritus. Believe the main character is or is fated to become Chaos. I can probably agree with that because when we was fighting Chaos in the actual game, I think he had 2 life bars. We got through the first life bar, and I think what was his name? Jed. He was like, "Oh, I see a face. Jack, he looks like you." I was like, "What?" So maybe Chaos is Jack in another world, maybe? I don't know. He's linked with Chaos in some way, just as Garland is. That is my first theory. My second theory is Garland is stuck in the loop of becoming Chaos over and over again. Garland's story is explained as this in FF1. Garland is the main antagonist in Final Fantasy, a former knight of Cornelia who has fallen from grace. The Warriors of Light pursue him after learning he has kidnapped Princess Sarah. Garland was the best knight of the Kingdom of Cornelia who gained respect through his power and skill. He became corrupted by power and abducted by Princess Sarah, fleeing to the Chaos Shrine, which is where I believe we see our heroes fighting at. He demanded the King of Cornelia hand control of the kingdom to him in exchange for Sarah's life. The Warriors of Light traveled to the shrine, where they defeat Garland and rescue Sarah.
Solivation.
We can't read all of it.
They
But y'all
noted
get
that
the
this
gist of
game
it, though,
could have
man.
some kind of connection with Dissidia, or will adopt similar principles to those displayed in Dissidia. That sub-franchise was also conceived by Nomura, and although Nojima was not involved in the story of the original 2 games, as they were written by Sayori Itamuro, he did create the concept for Dissidia NT. Those games were all about cycles, and the theory suggests that what we're seeing here is another cycle of that original story, where there were 3 Warriors of Light as opposed to 4. Within the original game, there is also the notion of cycles too, as Chaos goads the party before the final battle by saying that they will continue to die while he is reborn. From a gameplay perspective, both Nomura and Nojima were keen to highlight that even though it's a lot more brutal and adult than would be typical of a Final Fantasy game, and that may be off-putting for some, the gameplay does have a strong link to the story.
Surround yourself with people that know your worth.
One of the core facets will be depleting an enemy's break gauge so that Jack can perform a soul burst. This is what we saw happening numerous times throughout the trailer, and it results in the enemy turning to crystal and shattering, something that in turn allows Jack to recover a small amount of MP. MP will then be used to perform moves, and one, provisionally known as Lightbringer, will see Jack become temporarily strengthened, making it easier to break enemies. At its core, Stranger of Paradise will be an action RPG, and there are clear similarities with Nioh, a game previously worked on by Team Ninja. But until the promised demo goes live, it will be difficult to tell where it lies on the Team Ninja spectrum, as the
I can tell you, it's definitely reminiscent of Nioh, DMC, Ninja Gaiden. It has all those feels, man. If y'all have not played it, I cannot stress it enough. It's free. Go download it, man. It's fucking awesome. I really enjoyed this.
also work on the Ninja Gaiden franchise. Based on its RPG roots, Jack will be able to defeat enemies and improve his attributes, while also learning new abilities. But to tie in with Final Fantasy, Jack will be able to use various job classes to alter his playstyle, and those jobs will also influence the equipment and abilities he can use. At the moment, we know that from the original game, Warrior and Black Mage will resurface, but it's also been revealed that Dragoon will feature, even though it wasn't introduced into the franchise until Final Fantasy II thanks to Richard Highwind. Each job will have specific equipment, such as the Dragoon job, where we saw Jack use a lance, and the Black Mage job, where Jack was seen using a rod and shield. And in this regard, it will be interesting to see a Black Mage who balances the use of powerful magic with prowess in physical combat. It was also noted that although there will be some standard abilities associated with each of the weapons that Jack can wield, some abilities that are synonymous with Final Fantasy will also resurface. But even though numerous job classes will be available to choose from, in combat, Jack will be restricted to only being able to switch between 2 at a time. Alongside Garland, who will no doubt be one of the boss encounters, we also saw Bombs, a classic Final Fantasy enemy that actually didn't appear until the second game in the franchise. This was in addition to skeleton warriors, bats, a wolf-like beast, and a heavily armoured griffin that has also been denoted as another boss encounter. Now, as was revealed at the end of the trailer, Square Enix had plans to release a demo exclusively on the PlayStation 5.
So that's pretty much it, man. He pretty much covered all the lore. Hold on, let's see.
It was noted that there are
Yeah, he's pretty much covered everything that we want to talk about. What do you guys think, man? Leave it down there in the comment section, man. Is it some kind of time loop shit going on? Is it a retelling of Final Fantasy 1? Does it is borrowing something like different aspects from Dissidia? Y'all, it's so many ways you could take it. By playing the demo, I'm not 100% sure myself. I'm not a Final Fantasy guru. This guy is. I have knowledge between 7 and the current Final Fantasies. Anything before that, I didn't play, unfortunately. But I do know about Garland. I do know about Final Fantasy 1 and the Warriors of Light. I do know about all that, but I don't know, man. I guess time will tell, man. This game is not scheduled to come out till next year, so it's going to be a long time. But I definitely wanted to get these videos up because it definitely caught my eye. Hope you guys enjoyed, man. If you did, make sure you smash that like button. Also, sub if you're new. Until next time, it's been your boy King said. I'm out. Peace.
I thought you knew.